Greetings, students, and welcome to this edition of The Professor Travel. I am your host, The Professor Travel, coming to you from Southern California. This is the website, the vlog, and the podcast that you come to in order to learn more about different travel destinations. This is where we come as a community in order to discuss more. Hopefully, this will inspire you to travel more and ultimately to enjoy life more. Now, you can reach me on a variety of different social media platforms, of course, starting with my website at theprofessortravel.com. You can now also find me on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok at The Professor Travel. If you're a Twitterer, you can find me on Twitter at The Professor TR1. And then, of course, if you're a blogger, you can find me on Blogspot at theprofessortravel.blogspot.com. Today, I have a returning professor with me. Our visiting professor today is Dahlia Najor. How are you doing, Dahlia?
Hi, Professor Travel.
Welcome back.
Thanks for having me again.
Oh, thanks for coming. Now, you've previously done videos with me on Thailand, and we've done a video on California together where we talked about the state. This one, however, is going to be a little bit different. This one, we're going to talk about an experience you had when you went to a conference in Ecuador and got an opportunity to go over to the Galapagos Islands, which is really exciting. I'm totally curious about that. But before we get started, maybe we can ask you a little bit about some of your credentials, maybe a little bit about your educational background, and perhaps even about some of the places that you've traveled before.
Sure. Yeah. So my background is in higher education. So I've worked in higher ed for 20 plus years, which is crazy.
I know. Isn't that weird of us?
I know. So long. Currently, I work for University of San Diego and run an admissions department for one of the graduate schools. Have my bachelor's in business marketing, my MBA. Let's see here. Traveling. Where have I gone? I did a lot of like traveling in the States, and then started branching out to international travel maybe like 6-7 years ago, where I just kind of felt comfortable going on my own. So I would say 95% of my international travel has been solo. So if anyone wants tips on solo travel.
Now, has it for the most part been with the conferences that you've gone to for UC San Diego, or?
Yeah, so some have been on my own, just places that I wanted to see. And then a good majority the last like 4 years or so has been because of work. So it's to do some recruitment abroad. I work a lot with international schools abroad. So these are American schools in other countries. And I work with those teachers for some of our PhD programs. And I've been really, really lucky with USD to be able to see so many amazing places. So like just in the last couple of years, I've been to Thailand twice. I went to Rome. I went to the United Arab Emirates. Spent time in Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Guatemala, Ecuador.
It's been crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm leaving some out, but there's a lot. Yeah.
I'll need to reconnect with you on Guatemala. I'm very curious about that. We've never done an actual vlog or podcast on that before, but today's focus is going to be on Ecuador and specifically your Galapagos experience. So before we get started on that, I do want to ask a question about how long in advance did you have to plan for something like this? Was it like a year, 6 months?
No. I'm kind of a last minute traveler. COVID's going to change that, but I don't do a lot of preparation. I just get an idea and go. So the planning was around the conference, because the actual work conference I was attending was in Quito, Ecuador, which is an amazing city in itself. But once I found out I was going to Quito, I said, oh, well, it's just a little quick hopper plane over to the Galapagos. So I'm going to, schedule my vacation and go to the Galapagos, because that's just always been a dream. Like, it just sounds amazing. So yeah, it was not a lot of planning. There's a lot of options when you go to the Galapagos. So that's really the only time consuming part is, trying to figure out what's the best way to see the Galapagos based on, your interests and your needs.
Yeah.
Me as a solo traveler, it was a little more challenging, which we could talk about. But that's just in general. Any kind of solo traveler, you always you run into issues with, paying extra fees and, single supplements and things like that. So it's not any different, but that is something to consider, because if you want to get the most out of seeing the Galapagos, you want to do it by sea, and there are going to be some restrictions if you're one person.
Well, let's talk really quick about some things that you needed to prepare for ahead of time. Now, going down there, do you need to get a special type of visa, especially if you're going to the Galapagos? Did you have to get any special travel medications? Were there any type of requirements that you needed to go ahead of time for that?
No, fairly simple. I booked my hotel was really a house. It was like this amazing 2 houses on this gorgeous property. So I booked that, and with that, they built in some of the tours that I was going to take through the Galapagos.
Nice.
Yeah, but the only thing that I had to do to travel to the Galapagos is there is an entrance fee, and I forget how much it was. If you could look it up online, it's probably, I went in March 2018, so it may have gone up a little bit. Let's just say maybe it was like $250, or it could have just been $50. I don't remember actually, but you have to pay a fee to enter the Galapagos proper, like once you get to the islands. But you get a little card that says like you've been there.
It's like a stamp passport or something.
Yeah, it's almost like a passport, but you get this entry card that says like, you've paid your dues to go to the Galapagos. And one of the reasons for that is also they're very good about limiting traffic to the islands, because they want to preserve the islands and they want to preserve, like the natural habitat. So it's not like spring break where you go and the beaches are crowded, and it's never going to be like that, because even when you're on tours to go island to island to see the natural habitat, they time it so you're never there at the same time with another group. So it's very kind of well managed to preserve, the natural beauty of the Galapagos.
On that same token, you had mentioned the dollar figure. If I'm correct, Ecuador does use the US dollar, if I'm correct. Is that right? I think they do.
I don't remember having to do an exchange, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something I think we would just have to look up, but I don't remember. Most of the places I've gone to, I'll do an exchange at the airport right when I arrive, but I don't remember doing that in Ecuador and the Galapagos.
Okay, so you're
I will say though, it is Spanish speaking, so just kind of know that, like, I'm from Southern California, so you get by with what you know.
Yeah.
But it's a Spanish speaking, location, and like if you're getting a car or anything like that, they are going to speak Spanish. But everybody was just so amazing, so friendly, and they love talking to you, and it's just really fun.
Well, you're a very charming person, so I imagine having the conversation is very easy for you to go to any country and they'll be like, "Oh, Dahlia is just such a nice person."
I love it. I just soak it up. Like, you can make fun of me and my American accent. It's just fun. I love it.
So let's talk about pre-packing for this, because you're going to be going to literally the equator, and so it is going to be hot, but obviously at the same time you're going to be there for a business trip. And speaking of this same temperature environment, our previous video, the first one that you did with me, was in Thailand, and I've experienced Thailand humidity. I understand how incredibly hot that is. How would you compare it to Ecuador?
Ecuador. So Quito, when I was in the city, was not hot. It actually rained. There were some rainstorms, a little kind of overcast. Some days were just sunny and nice, but there was like a rainstorm like one of the days I was there. Also, something to keep in mind is elevation. If you go to Ecuador first and then go to the Galapagos, or vice versa, elevation is like a real deal. have to look up, the elevation in Ecuador, particularly Quito, but a lot of people get elevation sickness. I didn't. I also didn't get, what is it? Like water sickness, like motion sickness.
Seasickness. Yeah.
Seasickness. Yeah. I didn't get that on the boats, but people do. But the elevation in Ecuador, if anyone's on like heart medication, anything like that, like you definitely want to take those things into consideration, so that you can acclimate, or just give yourself like a day after you arrive to like acclimate to the elevation, because you just don't want to ruin the rest of your trip because you don't feel good or you're out of breath or anything like that.
Did you have to bring any type of bug repellent or anything like that, or did you?
No.
Okay.
No. So packing wise, because it was a work trip combined with my vacation, I had like my work clothes. I dressed light because it is hot. Like I said, there were a couple of days where it rained. I wasn't prepared for the rain, so I didn't have a rain jacket or anything. But it's just fun to get like that actually happened a day when I was like, oh, I'm gonna go shopping and like go check out a local market, and it's downpour. But it's just funny. It's a good story. But the packing for the Galapagos, I was like, okay. First of all, I'm not an outdoorsy person. I'm not a beachy person. It's just not me. So I was just like, what do I bring? Because I'm going to be outside on the water or traveling to see islands all day. Like, what do you wear? So, having to kind of think of a lot of just light pieces. You just want really light, breathable pieces to bring with you, shorts or, even a guy or girl, doesn't matter, but shorts, really light kind of breathable pants, not jeans. Do not bring jeans.
It sounds like the same like Thailand, because we were using linen clothing and gauze in order to be able to, effectively, like, so that way if we sweat into it, it's like absorbing it pretty fast. So
yeah, I made the mistake of wearing jeans one day in Thailand, and it was horrible. Like it's so uncomfortable. But yeah, just any kind of light, breathable clothing. Also, because I knew I wanted to snorkel and kind of just do everything that I could.
Yeah.
I bought in advance a wetsuit. Because in my mind I thought, oh my God, this is gonna be the worst if I go to the snorkeling store and they don't have a wetsuit that's gonna fit me. This is gonna be super embarrassing. So I bought one in advance and I didn't need it. So when the day I did go snorkeling, which was just amazing, they had like every size you could think of. They had like the short length, the long length. I got a wetsuit for the day that was like shorts,
Yeah.
Super easy to get on and off, because I just got in my head like, oh, this is going to be the worst, like getting in and out of the water and having to take your wetsuit on and off. Like this is just going to be uncomfortable. And it wasn't like that. But I brought like my own gear, mask, the wetsuit. Didn't need it because they provide all of that. Like if you book any of those day tours.
Very cool. Now, before we get into some more about Galapagos, I just want to know a little bit about the transportation to get down there. Now, you, I assume, left out of San Diego International Airport. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And did you just have someone drop you off, or did you actually park there while you were doing your trip?
Because it started with a work trip, I think I did like a Lyft or Uber to the airport. So I didn't have to deal with parking.
Do you remember what airline you traveled on for that trip?
I don't actually. I could look it up, but I don't remember.
That's okay.
There will be like your main flight to Ecuador. And then it's like a little hopper plane, not super small, but it's like a commuter plane from Ecuador to the islands. So you do kind of change planes like that. And then once I got to the Galapagos, there is kind of like entry process. And then because I booked my trip like through that the hotel at the house.
Yeah.
They had someone come and get me. So it was like a little
like shuttle.
Like a little shuttle, yeah, to come and get me and take me to the house. So everything was worked out and was safe, and didn't have to worry about anything. But yeah, I don't remember the actual airline to get there.
When you're saying that's kind of like a puddle jumper, or something, that I assume you're going from Kiddo to the Galapagos. Is it like the size of like your normal little jet, like a commuter jet that you would take from like maybe 20, 30 people, something like that?
Yeah, maybe a little bigger, maybe like,
Oh,
like 50 or so. Yeah, it wasn't anything that like landed on the water. It wasn't like that kind of, it wasn't that kind of plane, but yeah, it was, maybe like 50-ish.
well, and it actually does bring up a good question, because I was under the impression that it was so preserved on the Galapagos Island, they didn't even have an airport until we were just talking just now. And I was like, oh, I wasn't even aware of that. How long does it take you to fly from Kiddo over to the Galapagos?
It wasn't long. I don't remember like the specifics of how long the
But
flight
like
was.
less than an hour, you think?
Less than an hour. Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be like going, for us, probably like going to, you know, Vegas or a little
Vegas,
bit.
or San Francisco or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't much. Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Now, before you go to the Galapagos in Kiddo, I was just wondering if there were any specific tours of Kiddo that you just wanted to call out really quick, just to, like whether it was a food tour. You talked about the shopping trip you did there in Kiddo. Was there anything else that you'd want to highlight before we jump into the Galapagos at all, just about the city?
The city is beautiful. It's really beautiful. I just had enough time to kind of walk around where my hotel was, and just do a little sightseeing of the city. The city's really old, beautiful. Popped into like some old churches, cobblestone streets. It's just really, 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 really nice. There is a national kind of like monument, almost like, in Brazil, the statue in Brazil.
Yeah.
They have their own version. And I did go to, so I don't remember the name of that statue, but it's like well known. If you go there at the top of that hill, it's a very like windy road to the top. So you take a car, taxi, whatever.
So you don't walk it.
No, you can't. Again, elevation's like a real thing there.
Yeah.
So you take the car loop-de-loop all the way up to the top of this mountain, and there's this beautiful like statue that's lit up. I went at night, just stunning. And then there's a gorgeous restaurant right at the top, and I went to dinner there, and you just get the most amazing view of all of Kiddo, just lit up. It's like looking down on Los Angeles, just all lit up.
Oh, wow.
It was so beautiful. So that's something I would recommend, just for kind of like that wow factor, to go up, spend some time at the, at the monument, and then go have dinner at that restaurant. It was great.
Speaking of accommodations really quick, how were the hotel accommodations that you had while you're in Kiddo?
Fine. Yeah. Normal hotel.
Like on a scale of Motel 6 to the Ritz-Carlton, if you're on a scale of 1 to 5, is it like more like a courtyard or better than a courtyard?
So the hotel I stayed at was chosen for the conference. You know how they're like predetermined by the conference coordinators. So there was like 2 or 3 hotels that you could stay at. I would say it would be equivalent to like a W hotel, or
okay.
Yeah, like a Hyatt, something like that, just smaller.
Okay.
Yeah, but safe, clean, nice. Yeah, it was good.
And how many days did you have to spend at the conference before you got to go over to the Galapagos?
I think I was there 3 or 4 days before I went to the Galapagos.
Okay, wonderful. Now, let me ask you about the Galapagos. How long were you going to be at the Galapagos? Was it just a 1-day turnaround trip, or was it multiple?
Yeah, don't go for 1 day. I was there. I think I was there 8 days.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, if you're gonna go there, because it's a trip. go and like enjoy it. I would have preferred to be there like 2 weeks, but I tagged it onto a work trip. If I went back myself for like personal vacation, I would definitely do a couple weeks. There's so much to see. So I did, I think it was like 8 days.
So what are the accommodations like on the islands, or are you staying somewhere like on a ship off the islands? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, so there's two options to see the Galapagos. You can do what they call by land or by sea. Because I'm a single traveler, chose to do it by land because so this is where like the map of the Galapagos would come in handy. So there's several islands. There's like 9 islands.
Okay.
I flew into the main island, which is Santa Cruz.
Okay.
And I chose to do day trips out to other islands. And so you go out all day, explore, and come back. And day trips would be like, taking, they call them yachts, but they're not, it's not like daddy. It's not like a Puff Daddy yacht. They're, like maybe 10 of you, they're just private boats, like 10 to 12 of you max on these boats. They feed you on the boat, everything.
Okay.
But you take these boats out to the different islands and explore the islands, sometimes several in one day, and come back to your main island. So like for me,
Santa Cruz, right?
Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
That's where my hotel or house was. The best way to see the Galapagos is by sea, meaning I know you're a cruiser, you love to go cruises, you cruise. So there's all kinds of different types of boats. And you basically live on these boats and go from island to island to island to island. The reason I didn't do that is because it's already really expensive to go. And they charge you double. So if I was trying to book a room on one of these boats, I would have had to pay double.
Double occupancy, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's already really expensive. So I just decided for myself, I want to be able to like do a lot of things, and so I just decided to do it by land and choose the islands I wanted to go out and see during the day, whichever ones were possible. Some are too far, you can't do it in a day, but I was able to go to, I think it was like 3 or 4 during my trip.
Okay. And what were the names of a couple of these islands that you went to, apart from Santa Cruz?
So I was Santa Cruz. There is like, where is it? Like Isabella, I think Finca. Oh God, there's a lot. Like, so there's like but yeah, each one's different. So it just depends on like what you want to do. If you're super outdoorsy, beachy, and want to just be in the water all day, you need to choose certain islands. Others, if you're more into like just exploring the habitat, and like, you want to see the volcanoes, or you want to see lava rock, or you want to see more of like the animals, you choose different islands.
Okay.
So it really depends on like what you want to see and what you want to get out of the trip. I will say my favorite day out of like the whole week was when I went snorkeling to an island called Pinzon.
Okay.
And it was actually recommended by like this like cute German couple that was staying at my house. They came back from snorkeling and they were so happy, and they just were telling me like they had the time of their life. And I was like, well, where did you go? And they told me, and I said, oh, well, I don't have that like in my itinerary. It's not part of what I'm going to see. So I went to our hostess, like where I stayed, there's a woman that kind of managed the houses, and she would, also like you get your meals and stuff, you go to the house and you have your food. But I went to her and just said, hey, is there any way to get me like on a snorkeling tour to Pinzon? Because I just heard it's amazing. Like I'll scratch something else to go do this. And she was able to kind of like get me in. And that was like incredible. Like just to be on the water and enjoy being on the boat, and the snorkeling, like, just off the charts. Like, I was able to see like sea lions like coming right up to your face and playing with you like little puppies. Snorkeling with sharks, like black tip sharks, and snorkeling with penguins and sea tortoises, like just so cool.
Lots of
And
life.
lots of sea life. And a reason that people go to the Galapagos is because they're, all of the animals are specific to each island. So you're never going to see them anywhere else in the world. They have certain characteristics or features that are specific to the islands, because that's the whole reason, the Galapagos is popular, is those animals only exist there. And that's the whole Charles Darwin theory of evolution, like everything. So you get to see like the different animals, like as you go, and like they teach you like how they adapted to live like on that specific island, or to be on that beach or whatever, like, how they developed. It's really cool.
I have two follow-up questions here. First off, you and I live in Southern California, and the water temperature of the Pacific here is actually pretty cold. How was the water temperature down in Ecuador? Because I got to imagine it's got to be significantly warmer because you're literally right on the equator. But maybe I'm mistaken on that.
Yeah, it's very hot. Really, really hot. Now, I'm always really careful with like sunscreen, because I'm just really prone to like, getting sunspots, things like that. The sun is no joke. It is hot. So you're going to want to like bring
Hydrate.
really good sunscreen, good quality, or sun shirts, just anything like that to protect yourself. But the heat, you had asked earlier, what's the difference between like Galapagos and Thailand? It's dry heat. It is hot, blazing sun, not humid. But the good part is that you can just jump in the water, so you can cool off. Yeah, it's very, very hot. So just be prepared for that. It is.
Does the water temperature match the heat outside though?
The water temperature, like on the day I went snorkeling, we're wearing wetsuits, but it wasn't to me, it wasn't like cold. I actually think jumping in the beach here is freezing. And it wasn't like that. It's cool, but it didn't faze me at all. Yeah.
And for those who are watching, my students that are out there, if you are wondering why we're saying that the water here in Southern California, or even along the California coastline, is cold, when you're thinking, hey, it's the Sunshine State, why wouldn't we have warm water, is because a lot of our water comes down from the Alaskan area. And so we're getting, ice flow off, and it does affect the temperature of the ocean in our area. So that's why it's a weird thing to say that the Pacific is colder than the Atlantic Ocean, because you're thinking about like stories of like Titanic and stuff like that with icebergs and stuff like that. But we have Alaska on our side, and believe me, it gets very, very, very cold. So again, I just wanted to share that as well. So so you're going to be staying in the Galapagos for about 8 days. I do have some pictures I want to jump over to in just a second here, because we want to talk about your planned excursions. Actually, let's do that really quick, because I want people to get a visual on some of those things here. Now, again, for my people that are on the podcast, you're not going to be able to see this clearly, but feel free to go over to the YouTube channel in order to get some of these beautiful pictures of my friend Dahlia here, along with some lovely, lovely life in the ocean here and or around it. So we have 2 pictures on the screen right now. Talk to me about what we see here.
Yeah. I want to go back. Look how happy I was. Okay, that picture on the left with the seal, that was the morning that I went snorkeling. And so that was the dock, like for our little group of like 5 or 6 of us to, go get our wetsuits and then get on the boat. Now, the reason that the seals are there and those seagulls is because to the left, you can't see it, but that's where they catch fresh fish, and they're preparing the fish. Like prepared to eat a lot of seafood if you go to the Galapagos, but it's delicious. And they like catch it, or they're like cutting it, filleting it, doing all that stuff right there where I was. Because like one street over, it's like Santa Cruz is such a small town. One street over is like a row of restaurants, and at night, you don't see anyone there during the day, but at night, it's like community eating, and everybody like the street is lined with picnic tables or just outdoor tables, and everyone just gets their food from the little restaurants.
Yeah.
And you come out and you sit together in the street and eat.
So it's almost like cafe style in a way.
Cafe style.
But much larger in scope.
Yeah. I have a picture of it, but it was so cool just to like be eating with all these people, like strangers, and and have a beer and have your fish and whatever. But that picture was us like basically about to board the boat to go out snorkeling that day.
Quick question here, and this comes from sometimes you'll have younger people that will probably go on these adventure excursions because they think it's fun to be around the animals, which of course we all love, but at the same time, the concern that I would have for the wildlife of the area would be interference from the humans, and specifically touching the animals or interfering with the animals. What kind of rules do they have in reference to that?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. You shouldn't, and you can't touch the animals as much as you want to. Like I would have loved to pet that little seal right there. You're not supposed to. You just observe from a distance. Also, like I mentioned, it's so hot, you want to protect your skin, but they also, are careful about sunscreen in the water. You don't want to put those kind of chemicals in the water. I remember when I was snorkeling, the sea lions, like they just come up to you, they get so close to you and they want to play with you. They're so playful. And I just, you don't even think about it. I just reached out because I just wanted to like touch it, it's just it was like inches away from my face. And I remember our guide, I looked over and he was shaking his finger like, no. So they don't want you to interact, with the animals, which is good. I respect that. It just sometimes it's so hard. They're so cute, but like.
No, and you know what? It's funny that you and I've known you for 20 plus years now, and we have just, we for those of those people in the audience, we've both been in higher education for 2 decades now. And in that time, we've pretty much bonded over, going to different places, but at the same time, it's, we've gone to a lot of cities, you and I, but the one thing I've noticed is when I've interviewed you, you've gone to places that are very animal centric and friendly. Like when you were over in Thailand, you went to an elephant preserve. Here you are in the Galapagos, again, animal preserve in that area. Is that on a personal level? Do you have a thing that specific to animals that you were like? Yeah. You may hear the little doggy chiming in the background where you're at too. But,
yeah, a little pause. I do. I love animals. I do. This trip was really special to me because again, it made me do things I wouldn't normally do at home: snorkeling, going out on the water. Like, I always just kind of. I don't know why. I just never thought I was that person, like, just be kind of sporty, outdoorsy, that kind of, stuff. And this trip made me want to change my travel to center around more activities like this, rather than like traveling to go eat or traveling to go shopping or, whatever. Like, I want to do more like this. So then, my next kind of trip, like you said, was Thailand, where the main reason I was there for work, but my vacation side, the main thing I wanted to see was the elephant sanctuary.
Yeah.
It's just, they make me happy. I love it. Like that picture on the right is actually, so, the Galapagos is known for their tortoises, like these massive tortoises. They're huge and they're old. Like, that's incredible that they're just walking around like this. But that was right outside my room where, I was staying. And I used to call, like, you just see these huge tortoises walking around the property, and I would call them house cats. I was like, oh, the house cats. And So my neighbor, like the couple that told me about that snorkeling trip, they actually took this picture for me because they're like, go sit. You know, you can get close, but you're not allowed to touch them. But they're just out wandering around and like just walking by your window and you know your patio.
Like just chilling. 300 year
Yeah,
old 300-year-old tortoise is just wandering around going,
yeah, just
hey, what's
cruising
going
by
on,
your
Dahlia?
room, like hey, yeah, geckos in my room. That's the other thing. You just got to be prepared for this kind of stuff. And I've never camped in a tent. I've never done anything like that, but I know when I'm traveling, you just have to let things go and like adapt. And like, yeah, I woke up and there was geckos in my bathroom and whatever. It's like, oh, they're so cute. You know, you just you just deal with it and you just know you're somewhere else, and that's just the lay of the land.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I find that when I adapt to places, you know, sometimes we just don't have those modern technological features. One of the things I had to adapt to very quickly in Thailand was the fact that not all bathrooms um, are the same, and that is something that you have to deal with when you travel over to less developed countries. Sometimes, although you think of Thailand as being a very well developed country, you know, it's there are maybe places like I've been to Italy where they had like even in Venice, I went to a bathroom there that had just a hole in the ground for us to be able to go to the toilet. It's just some places are we're just so used to the functionality of a lot of American society, and the beauty of understanding culture when you travel the world is that you get to see how the other half lives. You get to see how people interact, and you get to see how people are able to make it very easily and enjoy their lives wherever they may be. So,
Yeah, you know, simple life, everyone's happy. It definitely makes you kind of reevaluate your life and like how you live and what's important. You don't need a lot. The people that I met like on this particular trip, I mean, just so happy with like just not a lot. Yeah. And it just makes you think about things.
let's take a look here at the next slide that I have. And for those that are listening on the podcast, we have two slides here with what look like lizard-like creatures. And
Godzilla
it's a Godzilla. I I
everywhere.
I wasn't sure if these were like iguanas or
Yeah.
monitors or something like that. Like talk to me about what these are.
Yeah, this was so second to snorkeling, this is my favorite day. So um this beach is called Tortuga Bay. The house manager, Katya, that she set up everything for me. One day I was just like, oh Katya, I just want to go for a walk and just get lost or whatever. And she said, oh, I'll send you to my favorite beach. And she just told me how to get there. This cute man picked me up in a little Toyota pickup truck, dropped me off at the end of a street. I didn't know where it was, and I was by myself. And I walked for probably a mile thinking like, I don't know where she's sending me. It's hot. I'm tired. I'm hungry. And then it just opened up to like the most incredible, beautiful beach I've ever seen in my life. And to top it off, like I maybe saw one other person. So it's like you have paradise to yourself. And then these crazy creatures are walking around. So you're the guest. It's not the other way around. Like this is their land. Like these guys are just walking around, living their best life, and you're just there. They are specific to that beach, that island, or the beach, Tortuga Bay. But they're iguanas. But they look like Godzilla, like just crazy. This doesn't even do it justice. Like the picture on the right, I think I'm surrounded by like 10 or 12 of them. I mean, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're all over. But this beach was just so incredibly beautiful. And you literally have it all to yourself, which was amazing. And the trees, those are mangroves. I had never seen like mangroves. I mean, I've heard of mangroves, but I've never seen mangroves like in person. And they're just like so beautiful. So I took a lot of pictures of mangroves. So the beach, there was like another section. If you keep walking, it's kind of like this hidden pathway, and it leads to like another beach. and there's sharks swimming all around. Like, so you just kind of step into the water and there's little sharks that swim like all around you. They don't bite, but they definitely rub up against you. And so you got the the land iguanas on one side of the beach and the sharks on the other side of the beach.
And the iguanas, for the most part, are not dangerous. If they don't like something, they'll wag their tail at it, and like that's their that's their whack. if
they
they're
weren't. I mean, look, I'm sitting in the middle of all of them. I didn't feel like they were gonna all of a sudden attack or anything. I mean, they're just, they're still. Sometimes they don't even move, and then when they move, they're just kind of like
waddle.
crawling back to the water to take a little dip.
Actually, funny that you mentioned that. We have a little video that we're going to throw in here as well of this little guy walking around. Let me see if I can lower the volume here just a little bit.
Yeah, so he's just like, let me get to the mangroves and take a dip.
Yeah, so this is him going and checking out his friend near a mangrove. This is such a wonderful video of you being able to capture this. How big is this guy?
Oh, they're big. I mean, probably a couple feet. and fat. They're fat. But see how like there's two people in the water, but the beach goes all the way to the left and the right. I mean, there's no one there. It was just so incredible. Now, okay, one con to this beach, and maybe this is just all beaches because I don't go to the beach a lot. I was there for hours and hours and hours because I walked that like mile trek to get there. So I was there for a long time, just kind of soaking it in because I'm all by myself. And I sat in the sand, and it's so hot. So I was like, oh, my skin is like just frying. So I started covering my legs with the sand just to cool it down. And when I got back that night, my legs were covered in bites. And what I didn't know is there's a thing called like sand fleas or something.
Sand fleas, yep.
Never heard of it because I don't go to the beach very often. Or if I do, sitting in like a lawn chair. But I had kind of covered my legs with the sand because they were just burning up. And it took the bites were there until probably a week after I got home, but they were bad. I mean, the itching, everything like is off the charts.
We'll sometimes see sand fleas here in Southern California, usually around like if there's a lot of kelp that washes up on the shore and stuff like that, just because they hover around it, especially as it gets dried out and stuff like that. It could be a bit of a challenge. So I absolutely understand that. Let me do this. Let's talk a little bit about some of your takeaways from this kind of a trip. When you think about this trip, not that there are going to be cons to something like this. Maybe there are some things that are less impactful. But what are probably the biggest pros of going on a trip like this?
I mean, it's to me kind of once in a lifetime. Like, again, it's a lot to get there. It is expensive. So, those are really like the only cons. But if you're someone that just loves wildlife, you love being on the water, and you like maybe, learning about the history of the islands and Charles Darwin. I mean, there's the Charles Darwin station. There's all those things there's a little bit for everybody, but this is really for the person that has an appreciation for just natural beauty and wildlife. So if that's for you, go to the Galapagos. It's amazing. You won't regret it. It's safe. The food is good. The people are nice. And you meet cool people. The people that I was on my tours with, I still talk to. Like, they're just, kind of, you meet like-minded people, and they're great. So yeah, cons, I think, again, just cost-wise, it's something you really gotta, prepare for.
But it's one of those once in a lifetime type of things. It's not like you would go to the Galapagos every every couple of, I mean, you would if you could afford it, but it's one of those places that you save up to go to. It's really
Yeah.
quite a life-changing experience. Like you said for yourself,
Yeah.
up to this point, you had not considered necessarily going to some of these, or more adventurous type excursions. But now it's like, okay, well now having
Mhm.
done this, it is kind of a life-changing moment.
Yeah. I say 100% do it. I don't regret going at all. I would go back and I would do it a little differently so I could see more. So I think if someone went with me and I could see more and like do the water, like the cruise tours from island to island, I would do that so I could get a little more out of it. But yeah, this isn't the type of place where like, we're going to take our annual Galapagos trip. Like you just, yeah, unless you've got a lot of money, it's probably not, that's not the place. Once you're there, it's very like, eating, anything like that, it's not expensive. But getting there, your flight, your hotel, whatever you choose to do. I mean, they have resorts, like you don't have to stay in a house like I did, but the house I stayed in was incredible.
Would you say the that way you booked it is kind of the best package deal, like in terms of cost savings or value? Or would you think that maybe staying at a resort might be better?
It really depends on what you want to do. Like there's some people where they are like, I just want to be snorkeling and scuba diving all day. Okay. So they probably are going to stay in like, the tiny little apartments or something along the beach. So they could go do these like trips all day. Me, I'm by myself. I've never been there. I don't kind of know the lay of the land. So I chose to have more of a package, but I also didn't want it super touristy. I don't like that. I don't like being constricted like that.
Yeah.
So that's why I chose the place I stayed at was called Samia Verde. I can send it to you. And although it's the two houses on a property, everything was built in. So they picked like the type of excursions that I could do. And I think I got 2 meals a day. Like you just go to the house and eat with a couple other people. So everything's cooked there. But there's actual resorts. So if you want that, a beautiful hotel room and you want the resort life and you want to sit at a pool when you get back to your hotel, they have that. I just wanted to live a little more like a local, but also, like I wanted it to be nice, but I wanted more of a local feel. So that's why I chose this Samia Verde with the houses.
Now, the one cost savings thing that you would say about this, though, if I remember hearing you earlier, is that you didn't really need to buy your own wetsuit. You could have rented your wetsuit.
Yeah, I returned it. I mean, I never even touched it. It was still in the packaging, everything. I didn't need it. Because they, on these day trips that you go on, they take you to the shop and they fit you and you're on your way. Like you don't
Okay.
need to do that. They give you your masks, your snorkel masks, all of that. So I didn't need to bring any of it.
Okay. Well, Dahlia, I would like to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to myself and my students. I've learned a lot about the Galapagos today, so I really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us. So thank you.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks, everybody. Go see
Appreciate it.
us.
Absolutely. Now, again, if we do have some people that were considering their PhD in the audience, they could reach out to you if they were interested in knowing more about that process. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. PhD in leadership studies and an online PhD in education for social justice.
Okay. And your email is dnajor, Najor at san diego.edu, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much, Dahlia. I really appreciate it again. And for my students that are out there, if you have any questions or comments that you'd like to share, please feel free to let me know. You can send me an email at scott@theprofessortravel.com. If you're on YouTube right now and you would like to be notified about when new videos go up, please feel free to hit the bell icon right above us in order to be notified about that. If you haven't already done so, feel free to subscribe. We always appreciate that. And if you like this content and you would like to receive more of it, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate that too. And then finally, if you are on the podcast and you would like to rate us or review us, please feel free to do that too. We really appreciate any feedback. So until next time, my name is Scott. I am the Professor Travel. Make every day a travel adventure. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.